it's dawned on me that I've had that thing for a little while now, and as noticed by someone else who works in one of the buildings nearby, it has become a little bit more hashtag park the Picasso, not pass the Picasso. But the reason that was is because I was using my C6 up until the tax was taken off of it, which happened, well, beginning of the month, or end of last month. So I'm now using the Picasso, and I've been in a position to report some of my findings. It's not bad, but it's not as good as it could be. It's brilliant for its mileage, 512,700 and something miles it's got on at the moment. Yeah, for that it's amazing, but I think it can be better. So I'm thinking I'm going to put it on the ramp and inspect a 500,000 mile Picasso and see how bad, how not bad it, and how good it is. See how good it is on the ramp. Why? Ah, yes. Yeah, I think it's all right. Oh. Right, so it's up on the ramp. Let's go and have a look. Oh my God. I'm joking, 500,000 miles, Picasso, it's like, oh, it's a bit of a shed and everything. Joking I am. So, oh my God. Okay, well there's two things I've noticed. Number one, it has an under tray. It doesn't look like it fits amazingly well, if I'm honest. I'd even question whether it's for the right car, but it has an under tray. I need to take that off to have a look up there. The other thing I've noticed is that bits of the sills have just fallen off onto the ramp, including both sides. Great. What the hell's done that? I have no idea. Is that the mark where the iceberg hit it? Now, in the meantime, I'm going to message Ashley at Palmdale Motors and inform him of his sill situation. I'm going to hedge my bets. I don't think he knows about it. I don't think he realises what these are like. And why is it always me who ends up giving people bad news? Why am I the one who like goes, actually no, that's not right? I know I'm spoiling the fun, but oh, it's actually got fixings in there. So if you cast your mind back, and I have to admit, I've not watched all the Picasso videos on YouTube about this car. In fact, I've only probably even watched a couple of Ian's. One of the things he noticed when he did something on it, I can't remember, but it had no gearbox oil in. He said the gearbox was really loud and had no gearbox oil in. Well, I've just seen why. It's because all the gearbox oil was on the outside of the car. Dry up there and soaking wet up there, so it needs a drive shaft seal. That is why the gearbox oil is falling out. First thing I noticed when I got under it, the cat's got a hole in it. Here. Now the exhaust on this is really boomy, quite loud. I don't remember what my Picasso was like because it was a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't as loud as this. This is like boomy on the motorway. It's only got a silencer at the back, there's nothing else except a cat, but that is how they are. I'm pretty sure that is how they are. The cat that's on it is a Mickey Mouse one. It's just a cheap aftermarket job, it's not like a genuine one, original one, which is probably not surprising, because it's done 500,000 miles, but it has got a tiny hole in it, and I suspect if I give it a poke, that will turn into a bigger hole. This clamp is on the underside for some reason. I don't know why people do that, because, well, it has already been hit, it's twisted. So, but yeah, that's not a problem, it's easy enough to sort, he says, looking at that thinking if I undo that it's going to ping apart, but yeah. Remnants of an exhaust heat shield here, which is no longer. That is probably somewhere, who knows where that is, that could be anywhere. All the fixings, or some of the fixings are still there for it. A lot of gearbox oil under here. So I'm not looking at the seals too closely at the moment. I'm going to send a message to Ashley at Palmdale Motors, who owns this car and loves it. I have a feeling, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, that he doesn't know that. I don't think he realises quite how bad those are. I mean, everyone jokes it's got like a bit of paint splashed on the side and Picasso, you know, probably got rusty seals. No, it actually has. And it's been repaired at some point by somebody who does not know how to use a welder. And it's probably just to get it through an MOT, like, I'm guessing, I don't know, a couple of years ago maybe. But regardless, ain't going to go for another one with them. It's going to be entirely predictable where I go, oh, do you know what, it really doesn't look bad for its, you know, for the mileage, but it really doesn't look bad for the mileage. Honestly doesn't. I mean, there's cable tie ends of various ages and whatnot, and to be honest, I don't really know Picassos well enough to know what normally goes on them, but it does feel like the engine mount at the back might have had it, and I'm looking at that and thinking, doesn't look as bad as I was expecting it to. I'll go and get my pry bar in a minute. Still has an air conditioning compressor, but no air conditioning, which is frustrating. I think it needs a service. Well, it does. It's come up saying it needs a service on the dashboard actually, but that's done on time rather than mileage. Well, it's done on both, but it's a bit frilly around the front, but that's just surface. Got some trim clips missing here and there, which doesn't help. Well, there's a front wheel arch liner missing entirely there. The front discs are looking a little bit sad. The CV boot on the passenger side is perishing heavily. I mean, we are talking advanced perishing. Yeah, she is waiting to fail the MOT, that one. Patiently waiting. That is just minging because of the drive shaft seal. I think the CV boot there is okay. The CV boot on this side is okay, and the CV boot there looks okay. Because it's not very old, I'm guessing. So, if that's a cheapo one, that'll be needing doing in not very long. Do you know, it really doesn't look bad. I mean, look at all this. I don't know what those are, like tie-down straps or something. Anchor points. What's it like up back? Oh. Nice. It's a little bit thumpy at the back, the suspension. It's not horrendous. It's a little bit on the bumpy side. The bushes there look a little bit perished, but they might not be too bad. Not quite as bad that side. It just needs a bit of love, doesn't it? I think for the most part it's really not bad at all. It's just vulnerable areas like that. You know, you'll get that on car. You get that on a car this age that's done a third of, well, no, not a third, quarter, a fifth of the mileage. Rear damper bush there looking perished. Likewise this side, that could be the thump. That would cause, well, it could cause a thump. Those are pretty cheap, thankfully. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you got underneath mine when it had done 120,000 or whatever it was, and it looked any different. In fact, mine didn't have an under tray, I know that was missing. Yeah, so it's got this Mickey Mouse cat on it. There's the hole there. It's the first thing I saw when I got underneath it. I'm going to move that clamp anyway, because that's just going to be asking for trouble. It's just going to catch on something. You can see it like hangs lower than everything else, and if you catch that, you might end up damaging the exhaust up here or bending hooks or whatever. So it needs a drive shaft seal. Of that we are sure. It's a bit boomy on the exhaust. The cat needs to come off and be rubbed down and welded up around that crevice there. I think you could get away with doing that, or you could just try and find a proper cat for it. Needs a damn good underseal, I think. Rubbing an underseal. Yeah. Right, I'll see if I can find the clonk. So, it's got a cover on the engine, which is quite rare because they don't often have that. But it's only got one fixing actually holding it on, which is actually not a good thing at all, because if this is rattling around, it's going to chafe through that fuel line, that vacuum line, that rubber hose, a wiring loom. Like, it can be on there, but it's got to be secured. And right now, there's only one mounting point. So I'm not going to put that back on. Now, much to the embarrassment of my children, we used this car on the weekend to go to Thruxton. It did not set amazing lap times. I went to see the touring cars. It was in the car park, as was everybody for like eternity, because they can't. Anyway, so yeah, drove it up there. To be honest, this thing drives, as I say, I keep joking saying it shouldn't drive as well as it does. It does drive pretty well, all things considered. There is a clonk when you turn the steering, so when you're going through the motions, you're getting a clunk, 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 clunk. So it's going to be top mounts, or you know, it could even be a broken spring. Something is not right in those areas there, so I'm going to look at that. It also ran low on water on the way home and said it needed a top up. And then it started beeping and saying, you need to top up, you need to top up. So I'm going to look at the level now, because I did, because I'm responsible. But if it's losing coolant, got K-seal in it, or something like that. Why? Yeah, so it's low on water, again, and the expansion tank isn't bolted in properly. The oil looks pretty clean for a diesel. I don't think it's long had an oil change. I mean, it's, well, probably a year ago, hence why it's binging at me to do it. But so welcome to the world of the Picasso, where you have Jubilee clips that are 500 times longer than they need to be, and you have 2 oil filler caps, here and here. You could swap them round, but if you do that, the car will explode. What is that? What is that? Do I even want to know? An earth strap has... Christ. Oh dear. Yeah, someone's put an earth strap on the engine lifting eye. An extra earth strap, I'm guessing. I mean, it's a mend and make do thing, isn't it? If someone's kept this car going, they've done it on a budget, which, you know, you would expect of a car like this. So one of the things I noticed, as I say, there's the clonking and the knocking and everything like that. The other thing I've noticed is there is a really sticky throttle pedal. Well, it's not really sticky, that's an exaggeration. It's not really sticky, but the throttle pedal is a little bit sticky. So not so much first thing on, you know, in the morning, but when you go to drive it, as you tend to do, and as the engine warms up, it's just, you can't smoothly, finely adjust it. It's kind of like in installments. It's a little bit notchy, and that makes driving it actually quite, well, rubbish, really. Now, I'm pretty sure I can see the problem. I mean, it was, you know, you normally know what these things are anyway, but the throttle cable on one of these is a mixture of a throttle cable and fly-by-wire. So the throttle cable actually goes up here, and then you've got a TPS up there. So there's your potentiometer, if you like, and I can see the cable there. Can you see the cable? Look what colour the cable is. Yeah. So that needs changing. There is absolute, I mean, it's grinding its way through the outer housing. So yeah, and I imagine that is an absolute horrible job to do. So that needs doing. So it needs a throttle cable, some welding, probably suspension mounts. We'll have a look at those in a sec. I need to adjust that exhaust. Oh, engine mount. I didn't look at the engine mount, did I? Boo. Ian mentioned he wasn't sure that this thing had a dodgy engine mount, and I'm not entirely sure if it has either. But yeah, it's not amazing. To be honest, it looks like it's been fitted wrong, because the lateral bits are like at 90 degrees to where the load is. Normally they're kind of like 45 degrees. Yeah, there's a bit of... And that one's got a bit in it as well. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of what you expect. It's not, you know, it's hardly a surprise. These get a rough time. Oh. Yeah, that doesn't sound nasty. Those springs don't even look that old. They've still got a paint mark on them. Inner arches look pretty good. They'd look even better if they had an actual arch liner in there. What's that connector for? It's covered in muck. More trim clips missing. Oh God. I think the noise might be the other side. Yeah. Yeah, it's the other side. Right, we are... Oh. Yeah, so the noise will be... Ooh. Don't get that problem with pneumatics, do you? I mean, if it comes to doing that, you would probably put new top mounts in it anyway, just because to get that strut out, to do that spring, you've got to take the top mounts out. They're a pain in the arse. You would just do the whole thing. Right, so update, I've got my list. Offside front spring, suspension spring, snapped and has been snapped for some time. Throttle cable, could do with changing. Near side drive shaft seal, near side outer CV boot perished. So if you're going to do the drive shaft seal, you would do the CV boot at the same time. The engine cover fixings, I know that's not a big thing, but it needs to be right. Near side front arch liner, that's missing, and that is covering the wiring loom in there in crap, which is going to bring problems. And oh, the exhaust bolt is round the wrong way, the clamp. Yeah. But enough of my opinions. Let's ask the car what it thinks. What do you think? I just found an oil filter that will fit this engine. It was on the front of my SM, which I own. It's mine. I have a Citroen SM. I will donate this to the Picasso, because it says on the dashboard it needs an oil change. I don't think it actually does, but you know, let's keep it happy. For the first time ever, I am code reading in the back of a car on a picnic table. This is fantastic. Oh, it wants to know the RP number. Damn, watch my video about RP numbers. Oh, surely you can tell me this, you know the VIN. 9472. And it was built in Vigo, which is in Portugal. 9472. Right, diagnosis. Let's have a look and see what the Picasso thinks. Switch off the ignition and switch. Oh, for God's sake, I've really not thought this through. It's now doing a test. It's looking. Oh, God. It's looking for trouble, is what it's looking for. The BSI has a fault. It's found the BSI and it says the BSI has a fault. The multifunction display, it's found that it does not have a fault. The radio, it's found that, and that does have a fault. The instrument panel does not have a fault, but it has found it. The injection system has a fault, and it has found it. The ABS system, it has found, but it has no fault. And the airbags, it's still looking for. Oh, the airbags, it doesn't know. Right, so let's have a look at the BSI. What's it not happy about? The BSI is basically the main body ECU. It's the ECU that controls things like the central locking, the windows. It has no communication with the air conditioning. That's interesting. It has an intermittent fault with the OBD or engine ECU. It has an intermittent fault with the alternator, and it has an intermittent fault with the vehicle speed. Now, in fairness, these could all be old things. Right, the radio fault. Be interested to know what this is. The radio aerial input. The radio does work. Let's erase that. Back to the BSI, so let's get rid of these. And then what was the other one? Injection. Oh, there's still a BSI ECU fault. No communication with the air conditioning. Right, so it's definitely not worth me trying to get the air conditioning gassed, is it? So the air conditioning appears to have been disabled somehow. Let's have a look at the injection. So this is the engine. The airflow meter signal. Wasn't Hubnut prattling around with the airflow meter on this? History, let's have a look. Hubnut prats around with airflow meter. Ooh, people have been in doing stuff in 2007, in 2010, and once in January 2023. Let's get rid of that airflow meter code. Before erasing the fault, an after-sales zone must be completed. 8 after-sales zones have already been memorised for a maximum of 50. Mileage. 512,730. No, that's kilometres. What's 512,730 miles in kilometres? It has done 825,159 kilometres. I mean, that's got to be it's got to be million kilometres, hasn't it? That's got to be the aim. I've really, sitting in the back is a silly idea. There are no more faults. Let's have a look now. None, because Hubnut. So we see what tests we can do with the BSI. Locking of locks. Timed illumination of side lamps. Timed illumination of system status LED. Rear screen demister button illumination. Should we see? Should we see? I'm sat in the back of the car. Ready? Witchcraft. Oh, Hubnut's gonna love this one, look. Windscreen wipers. Oh, look. So you can test stuff to see if it works. Refrigeration compressor clutch, that's an interesting one. Should we see if the clutch for the aircon works? It does. It did work. Here you go, here's a fun one so we can measure what the engine's doing. Engine speed, camshaft, crankshaft synchronization, fuel pressure measured, injector flow correction, measured airflow. Let's have a look, let's start it up. Right, the engine speed is 700 and, well, it's, what's it beeping for? Oh, the door's open. Fuel pressure is 298 bar. The difference between the measured fuel pressure and the reference fuel pressure is minus 10 bar. Now it's 22. What else can we measure? The fuel pressure regulator current is 635.3 milliamps. Pre-injection advance 14 degrees. Main injection advance 3 degrees. Third piston deactivation if present. Atmospheric pressure. Coolant temperature. Air temperature. Injector voltage. Wow, that's some voltage. Look at that. Battery voltage. The alternator's good. Camshaft sensor. It doesn't know if the fan's cutting in or out. That's interesting. Air conditioning cut-off request. Yes. Anyway. Probably enough prattling about with that. It knows we're not moving. Although I could probably have guessed that. So yeah, I'd say there we are. That's kind of an in-depth inspection of a Citroen Xsara Picasso that has done 512,700 and something miles and has been into re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Looking at this, which, you know, I would leave that. I think that's cool. So, conclusions. There is nothing on this car, and I will put my professional head on the line here. There is nothing on this car that is there and is the way it is because of the mileage. Nothing. All the things I've found, things like rusty sills, broken springs, whatever, those are all things you'd find on one of these that's done 150,000 miles. I mean, you see cars with 60,000 miles in garages, normal garages, Golfs and Focuses and things like that, with snapped springs. So, there's nothing on that that stands out as being a symptom of something that's done that mileage at all. And that can only be a testament to how well it was looked after. I say was looked after. I think it needs a little bit of TLC now. So what I'm going to do, bearing in mind that the guy who owns this car and loves this car probably hasn't seen it, other than in passing fleeting glance, hasn't seen it properly for a while, I think I might need to speak to him and tell him what it needs. I don't want to do it, but I think he probably needs to know. But that's a job for another day that isn't today.